Howdy. This here old show may contain some cussing, some discussions of a non-biblical nature, and if that sort of thing does not sound like something you'd be interested in listening to, then I would suggest you turn around right now, fella, and just head out the other way. Saloon's down the street. They got some nice girls there.
They must be destroyed on sight.
Okay, welcome to episode 74 of They Must Be Destroyed on Sight. Oh, jeez, excuse me. They must be destroyed on sight, not they must be destroyed on burp. I'm your host. Yeah, that's great. I'm your host, Lee, 6 Bullets to Hell Russell, and I'm joined by my co-host, Daniel, Requiem for a Gringo Harper. How are you doing, sir?
Doing quite well, thank you.
Yeah, great. We'll be talking to Paul as well in a separate conversation. We had to split things up this week, but once we go through our initial sort of reviews of these films, we'll come back with a discussion with Paul as well on what he thought of these things. We're going to be doing 3 films this time out. We're going to be doing 3 films from Lee Van Cleef, non-Leone spaghetti westerns, as we continue our spaghetti western series. And yeah, we don't really have all that much in the way of house cleaning. We have one comment to get to, and that's it. CB Fall comes in and says, for the last episode we did, really interesting podcast. Never seen the sequel to Django, and to me, it's very unnecessary. So there you go. Sure.
He's actually listening to the show. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I laid odds to get that. It gets that at the beginning, but no. Nice to hear we have a new fan. Always pleasant.
Always appreciated. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm kind of assuming neither of us really have anything else we need to talk about that we watched this week.
No, I don't have anything.
Yeah, I don't either. 3 spaghetti westerns that I ended up watching 2 or 3 of them. Well, 2 of them 3 times this week. Yeah, nice. no other time to watch anything else. So
yeah, no.
Yeah. But yeah, we're going to be talking about Mr. Lee Van Cleef, who by the time spaghetti westerns came out, his career was kind of dead. He was in semi-retirement after a really bad automobile accident, and the roles had dried up for him quite a bit, but the Italians threw some money his way, and he went over there and became a big star again, and starred in about 20 or so spaghetti westerns, and used his unique look to his advantage, because you gotta say there's no one else who looks like Lee Van Cleef. He's a pretty singular gentleman, which is kind of ironic, because early on, and when he started in Hollywood doing westerns, he was told that he could get better roles if he would only get a nose job, and he refused to do it. So he had prominent roles as second bad guy to the left. You know, he's the first guy you see in High Noon. Yeah, but he never really had big fame until the spaghetti westerns came along.
Obviously, I've seen the Leone, the Man with No Name trilogy, and I've seen him in some other stuff. I've seen High Noon, and he's in the Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. Yes, for 3 minutes or something,
yeah.
But you look at that, and he's clearly not being utilized in the way that the spaghetti westerns are going to utilize him, and in the way these 3 films. This was really a revelation for me, because I hadn't seen any of these 3 films before watching this, and my God, he's such a magnetic personality, and had so much fucking charm. Yeah, it's just he carries the film, even when you don't really know what's going on, he carries it regardless.
Yeah. So, yeah, and we're going to start with our first one here from 1967, Death Rides a Horse.
Death rides a horse. When you've waited 15 years to find a man, it's a shame you can only kill him once. The bandits who killed 5 defenseless people made one big mistake. They should have killed 6. Ever since he was a little boy, there was one thing he always wanted to do. Find 4 men and kill them.
Directed by Giulio Petroni, who has done a couple spaghetti westerns that before now I'd never heard of, and I've definitely never seen. Tipipa from 1969, Night of the Serpent from 1969, Life is Tough, Providence from 1972, and A Sky Full of Stars for a Roof, 1968. So I'm actually going to have to try to investigate some of these now. Written by Luciano Vinconi, who actually did basically some like rewrites and first runs at scripts and stuff for Leone's stuff, Fistful of Dynamite, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and For a Few Dollars More. So, he's been working in the industry for quite a while, and this is one of the first projects where you got to be like the full-fledged writer of it. So it stars Lee Van Cleef as Ryan, John Philip Law, who big star in his own right, or was, as Bill Mesita, Mario Braga as Walcott's henchman in Waistcoat. That's quite the title for a role. Luigi Pistilli, who is a big, well-known face in spaghetti westerns. Actually, we're going to see him next episode as well. Anthony Dawson as Bert Canova. Jose Torres as Pedro, Franco Balducci as Scarifo, Bruno Corazzari as Walcott's bartender, and Felicity Fanny, that's quite the name, as Martita. And I'll let you get into the synopsis here, Daniel.
A young boy watches helplessly as his parents are brutally murdered by a group of 4 bandits, each with a distinctive feature that burns itself into the boy's memory. 15 years later, this boy is Bill, portrayed by John Philip Law, and is a blonde-haired gunslinger with a heart of gold. In a completely separate plot thread, another gunfighter named Ryan, Lee Van Cleef, finishes a prison sentence and goes on the hunt for his former gang members who put him there. Did I say unrelated? My mistake, because it turns out that the gang that killed Bill's parents is the same as the one that sent Ryan up the river. What a coincidence. The duo cross paths several times during the film, building an uneasy alliance and a sort of mentor-protege relationship, as Ryan helps Bill become a more experienced gunfighter, and Bill helps Ryan by saving his ass a couple of times. They slowly work through the 4 members of the gang, with Ryan demanding $15,000 from each, $1,000 for each year he was in prison, and a few twists and turns later we end up with a finale involving Bill being buried to the neck in sand, an attempted ambush turned standoff, and the revelation that there were not 4 men present the night that Bill's parents were killed, but 5. Any guesses about who the 5th was? In the end, the 2 men decide that their camaraderie and friendship means more than their past, and all is well with the world.
Yeah, first off, I'll say that the print that I found on YouTube, this is the first time I've ever seen this film clear, where it actually looked good.
Yeah, I really thank you for sharing that with me, because I was going to watch the version that's on Amazon Prime, and boy, that looked like shit. That's a pan and scanned, just really shitty print. And, I was just going to kind of watch it, but then I saw the version you shared, and no, this looks way, way better. So if you haven't seen, I would not have believed it could look this clear.
Yeah.
Seeing the version that was on Amazon.
Because I have seen several sort of public domain releases of this that just over the years have looked like shit. And as much as I've kind of liked this film over the years, I have not liked it more than I have now. Watching it this time out was a revelation for me almost.
Yeah.
It's just amazing how much you miss if you watch it in those old shitty VHS rips and stuff. It's just totally different. It's night and day. I really like this film quite a bit. It's one of my favorite Van Cleef films of all time. And I think the plot just works really well here. Like it definitely, like you said, there's that mentor thing of the old gunfighter and the young gunfighter. This is sort of a trope that Lee Van Cleef was almost typecast into in spaghetti westerns for the most part. Like he did several films where it was this sort of idea. Stems right back to For a Few Dollars More, where he's Colonel Mortimer with Clint Eastwood as his Man with No Name character. So he does that sort of same thing here, and he does it effortlessly. But yeah, what are your sort of initial thoughts of this one, Daniel?
This is kind of a minor masterpiece. I really enjoyed this. Kind of going through it. I kind of poo-poo the plot a little bit, just because it is this kind of convoluted thing. It's really this is not a film that I necessarily want to even like talk that much about, because there's not much going on. I mean, it's kind of, okay, it's a film. It's kind of about this mentor-mentee relationship. It's a film that's kind of about this revenge plot, but it's really it's about watching these two men's performances. Yeah. And it's about, like, I mean, if there was ever a film that was basically built on the fact that these two dudes look really awesome and have really good abilities to sling a gun around in really cool ways, this is that film. John Philip Law, I actually know him, really I only know him from Barbarella. And so this was really like, oh my God, this guy is really fucking good. Like, at first, watching this, it's like, oh, this is a Lee Van Cleef movie, and then, oh, this blonde kid, he's just going to be this kind of like douchebag, this kind of wandering around, and then, like, no, he's a really cool character, really kind of compelling guy. He really has his own personality. He has his own, like, force of will. He gets the better of Lee Van Cleef a couple of times, and they kind of have a little back and forth. I mean, there's this real contentious relationship between them. And they each kind of have their own strengths and weaknesses. And, as you kind of see the film move forward, you really see this relationship grow. And it really is built on their kind of budding friendship in a way. I mean, it really is that story. And everything else, I mean, the Four Aces guy and the card playing and the, all the other stuff is kind of just set dressing to deliver that to us,
I think one of the biggest criticisms I see of this film is that people complain that John Philip Law is really wooden in this, and I totally disagree. I don't think he's wooden at all. I think he portrays a guy who was traumatized as a kid, who has this smoldering anger, like, burning inside him, and he's barely keeping it contained. And, I mean, he's very cold and emotionless in a way, but for a very specific reason, and I think his performance is actually really good in this.
I think it might be one of those things. I mean, you've seen the shitty versions more than I have. But, it may be that, like, seeing it in this kind of good quality version that I got to see it under. I mean, I really admired his. Just you see him next to. I mean, no one looks good next to Lee Van Cleef, right? Like, Lee Van Cleef is a charming ass motherfucker. Yeah. So you're definitely kind of drawn to him much more so than you're drawn to John Philip Law. But John Philip Law absolutely carries his sections of the film. He's definitely has this personality. He really has a compelling screen presence. I buy him completely in the film. I don't. At first, he seems like a little bit of a pretty boy, kind of this Western, but like as you kind of move on, it's like, yeah, he's kind of this golden-haired boy who's just kind of coming into his manhood in this kind of way, and he's definitely inexperienced, but he has his own force of will, and he definitely owns the sections of the film that he's in. I really admired both of these men's performances.
Yeah, and speaking on the relationship there. You mentioned a good point where these two come together with mutual respect. There's a part in the film where Lee Van Cleef says, if I was to ever have a son, I'd want him to be like you. Mm-hmm. And there's a sense of this character who's had 15 years of his life taken away, working hard labor in prison. He's trying his damnedest to sort of right the wrongs, like get his revenge, but at the same time, try to carve out some little bit of a life that he's basically watched pass by because of his own mistakes. So, he's making that connection. That 15 years where he could have had a kid, and settled down, have been taken away from him. He's an old man now. He can't do that anymore. So there is some little bit deeper, like, character depth there than some people might have picked up, like you said, watching the old shitty versions of this film, where these details get lost in fucking blurry, washed out fucking prints and choppy fucking editing, and
and with a kind of muddy sound and everything. I mean, yes. This, I definitely, if you see this, seek it out on it with a good print, like It's not. It's. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's not worth seeing if you only watch a shitty print, but it's kind of not worth seeing if you only see a shitty print. Do you think that it's obvious that Lee Van Cleef was one of the people who killed his parents from the beginning?
I don't. I think they keep it in the dark well enough for a while. I mean, I think it becomes pretty obvious as you get about halfway through the film. But that's if you're really paying attention. I feel like it is left fairly ambiguous for a little while, but after a while you start to put two together. Like, there's no way he can't be part of the gang during that night. At first, I kind of thought to myself, okay, he's been in prison for 15 years. He might have been put in prison and turned on by that gang before they went to the ranch and killed everybody, right? But then you think back, okay, there's that one guy who saved John Philip Law's character from the fire or whatever. So you put two and two together, you go back to it, and it's like, oh, it's fucking obvious. But I think the movie does a good enough job of like distracting you from it.
Sure.
That you can, you can go along for a little while and you don't pick up on it. And again, at the same time, this sort of central mystery here isn't all that important. It's much more the relationship between the two characters. And once you realize that Lee Van Cleef had some sort of hand in that night, it's much more interesting to see where the two characters are going to end up, how they're going to resolve that issue. So that's more the strength of the film, I think.
I found the reason I asked you is because I kind of watched it in I only watched this once. I watched all three of these films once this week, so I didn't watch them multiple times, unfortunately, because I definitely want to revisit these. When you see Lee Van Cleef at the graves of the parents, and he's kind of like to me that's like a dead giveaway, that he was there. And I, honestly, watching that scene, I thought I had just missed him in the beginning of the film or something. Yeah. Like I went like, I want to rewind it and actually catch the bit. I had assumed, we were given that piece of information and I just missed it. And then like realized, no, we weren't. It really was kind of meant to be ambiguous. But to me, it was kind of such a like dead, glaring giveaway. Like, oh no, this guy really was there. The reason that we're cutting between these two characters is because they're clearly going to be connected in some way. So, there's a little bit of a kind of genre savviness I just kind of brought to this to some degree. But, the film definitely kind of plays with the idea. It really doesn't shove it in your face quite yet. But it doesn't rely on that being a secret either. I mean, I think it works either way. But I definitely think that, like, once you kind of watch Van Cleef's performance, knowing that, it really is one of those. It deepens my respect for him as an actor because you really see it in his face. You really see it in his performance. That this is something that he legitimately is torn up over. That he has come back to this kid, like specifically to, make amends to some degree. And later on, he even offers himself like, Let me help you out. Let me get rid of these bad guys. Then you can kill me. It's fine, but let me, save you first. Clearly, Paul Thomas Anderson had seen this film when he wrote Heart 8, and that's all. That's which has a very similar dynamic going on in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's interesting. This film kind of where a lot of spaghetti westerns kind of ape Yojimbo. At the end, this kind of apes Seven Samurai, where they get to that little compound village, whatever you want to call it. Where the villagers are there, and they sort of turn them into a little small army to defend against the gang of outlaws, although that doesn't work too well for the villagers because most of them get killed as well. But
everybody dies, but our heroes live, so everything's good, right? Like, come on. I was really impressed also with how far this film goes in some ways, in terms of some of the character bits, and I mean, there is a rape sequence at the beginning of this film that's pretty harsh. My wife was definitely like, "Holy shit!" Because she watched the beginning of the film.
It is. I would argue it's more brutal than the gun down of the family in Once Upon a Time in the West. I'd say it's even worse. So
no, it's definitely on that spectrum. And then later on, there's a sequence where like a bunch of the bandits are basically like raping the Mexican women. Yeah. Although that doesn't go nearly as far, but I mean, really, I mean, you're really getting the beginning, like the violence of that sequence is absolutely. I mean, you understand why that would be burned in that kid's brain, and I'm just really happy for the kid that the members of that gang all had really clearly identifying features that they kept for the next 15 years. The dude never changed his earring in 15 years. That's pretty impressive, I gotta say.
It's highly convenient, isn't it? But it goes sort of back to the idea, though, that even though a lot of these guys in this gang have sort of bought themselves into wealth and high society, they don't change being the same people that they were back then. Because Lee Van Cleef even mentions he runs into a couple of them where they've each got like fucking guns at the bottom drawer of their desk, and he's like, "You guys don't change at all. You're the same guys I knew 15 years ago." So
yeah. No, there's definitely that sense of these guys. These guys have like made good lives for themselves. these two men kind of come as like avenging angels in a way. You know, there is this sense, you know, the sins of your past are going to catch back up with you, and it just turns out that if Lee Van Cleef is after you, you might as well just give up. Like,
you might as well just quit.
John Philip Law is just the cherry on that sundae, you know, in a way. You know? It's just like, all right, fuck, we're screwed now, you know. I was also just as long as I'll say one other nice thing about John Philip Law. Like, I was really impressed by his gun skills. Like at the beginning, you know, like I mean, it is one of those things to where, and I know I mentioned it earlier, but so many films you kind of see people doing normal activities, doing things on screen. Like the performance may be fine, but they just don't seem quite comfortable like with the actual like activity they're doing. Particularly when it's like, you know, like handling guns or that sort of thing. These two actors both seem to be incredibly comfortable on camera with their gunslinging skills. Like, it seems like to me, as someone who is not, I mean, I'm not a gun owner, but, you know, watching them, they feel very, very natural to me. And that it shows. I mean, it plays in the film, you know.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when John Philip Law was brought into this, he had no training with that sort of thing, or horse riding as well. He had to learn those things as he got this role. So he picked it up like a natural, like basically. Yeah. So it was very impressive. So the original title for this was Duel in the Wind, and Lee Van Cleef kind of said, "Fuck that," and he wanted to be called Man to Man, and I think they did retitle it that for a while, but then the Italian producers immediately kind of nixed that and changed it, and eventually became Death Rides a Horse, and I think that's a better title anyway. Like, I think that works.
It's funny how many of these, and I mean, really, I kind of run into the issue. I'm running into the issue with the series where all the titles are kind of running together in my head. I'm like, hold on, is this one for the apocalypse or is this no? Okay, no, this one is Death Rides a Horse. Okay, I got it. Because it's sort of the same, you know, sorts of themes come back over and over again. It's slightly generic titles, but no, I like the title on this. It's a very evocative phrase, you know, Death Rides a Horse, and you know, there are two men who are riding horses who are kind of death personified, and so there is that sort of sense. I enjoy it. I do think that Man to Man is a great title for the gay porn version of this. The gay porn parody, you know, like
I think Morricone's score kind of fits that as well. Like, it's a very kind of encroaching, impending doom kind of idea with the main title, especially.
I mean, you know, I think I tweeted out, I'm like, you know, oh, it's not a spaghetti western without a Morricone score for me. Like, you've got to have it. or a Bacalov. I'll grant you a Bacalov, but you know, if you don't have one of those two, then it feels like it doesn't feel quite spaghetti western to me, you know. So I was happy to get a nice Morricone here for Death Rides a Horse, definitely. Yeah,
and of course, Quentin Tarantino stole the main title for Kill Bill. He stuck it in there. You know, it's more popular for the kids these days. The kids recognize it because they heard it on a Quentin Tarantino film. But
well, we'll definitely, when we get to the Grand Duel, I'll talk about that a lot because, like, you know, but yeah.
DVD info for this one. Of course, mostly public domain. If you see a public domain print of this, just avoid it. Don't even fucking buy it. I don't care if it's $1 in a fucking dollar bin. Don't even do it. Because if you can still find the YouTube version that we watched, you're better off served that way. Because they're all pretty much full screen, pan and scan. I've not seen a good one. I've seen slightly better than the shitty one I saw before, but I've not seen a good one. So avoid those at all costs. There are some good releases, though. There was a release in 2011 from a company called Wild East that is a bundle of Death Rides a Horse and A Reason to Live, A Reason to Die. Apparently that's an Amazon.com exclusive that you can get. And MGM released a UK version of this that is apparently really good in 2005, but you have to have a region-free player to do that. And probably most of you people these days probably have region-free players. I think I'm probably the only person who doesn't have one anymore, but you know.
I bought one this year because some of the Doctor Who DVDs I needed were not available on Region 1 anymore. So, you know, now I own one, but, you know, not until this year. But it's good stuff. I mean, this would be worth a purchase, you know, for a really good print of it. You know, I would definitely recommend it.
Definitely. Okay, now we can move on to Sabata from 1969.
misses. A pistol that shoots 2 ways. And a look that means you're dead before you draw. The man and the gun are one, called Sabata.
Directed by Gianfranco Parolini and written by Gianfranco Parolini and Renato Izzo. And they worked on the entire Sabata trilogy. And also Renato Izzo wrote Night Train Murders, which is a film we're going to be covering in October. So that should be fun. This is starring Lee Van Cleef as Sabata, William Berger as Banjo, Ignazio Spalla as Carincha, Aldo Canti as Indio, Franco Rissel as Stingle, Antonio Garadulli as Ferguson, and Linda Veras as Jane. And I'll let you get into the synopsis there, Daniel.
The titular Sabata, Lee Van Cleef, is a man of mystery who waltzes into a town to foil a bank robbery that is being performed by a large crew that includes a group of acrobats from Virginia. Yes, acrobats. Sabata doesn't let that slow him down at all, mind you, as his skills with a ranged weapon in this film supersede even those of Clive Owen and Shoot 'em Up. There's $100,000 in the safe that was captured by the team of acrobats, and when Sabata returns it to the town, he is offered $10,000 as reward, which he accepts. It turns out, though, that shadowy forces are at work, and the bank crew was funded by a wealthy railroad magnate looking to buy the town so he can run a railroad through it, and Sabata is only getting in the way. The magnate and his rich asshole friend send a series of killers after Sabata, terrified that he won't play ball with them, and we get a whole line of quite impressive action sequences involving Sabata taking down hired killers. Not Sabata alone, of course, as he's joined in his quest for a kind of justice by Carincha, a sort of Falstaff of the Old West who's simultaneously a comic drunk and the deadliest person around with a knife. Carincha brings his silent pal Alley Cat, who has a highly impressive acrobatic prowess of his own, and the trio are joined by Banjo, who keeps a gun hidden in his musical instrument and who may or may not be all he claims to be. Does the film end with the final duel between Sabata and Banjo? Sort of.
Yeah. And this is a lot of fun. This is where spaghetti westerns were going in the late 60s. They were sort of moving away from the Leone stuff. They were going more towards comedy, and they were getting a big, hefty dose of spy movies. Basically, they were kind of starting to really rip off from the James Bond kind of stuff. And you see that in this character. And this is actually kind of a not so much a reaction directly to those as it was a reaction to another character called Sartana, who came before this and was a big hit. Lee Van Cleef, he kind of looks like his Colonel Mortimer character from For a Few Dollars More, but he's essentially playing Sabata as this gunslinger who has impeccable aim. Like, he just doesn't fucking miss at all. There's no question about it.
He's basically a gun-toting superhero in this. Like, there's no reality to this at all.
No,
he's completely impossibly accurate with a rifle or a pistol or anything.
He has gimmicks. He has hidden guns. He has special weapons, and the villains in this have special weapons as well, which is actually a bit more unique genre-wise. But what are your initial thoughts on this one, Daniel?
This is a ton of fun. I watched this afternoon, which is why I wasn't here for the earlier recording, because I hadn't finished watching this yet. Yeah, especially with a lot of the more serious stuff, a lot of the more kind of, dirty, aggressive. I mean, you compare this to something like the original Django, and it's night and day difference. You know, there's no real sense of urgency, or there's no real sense of like danger. There's no real sense of this is just straight up. Let's sit down and watch Lee Van Cleef be a badass for 2 hours. And that's what it is. You got your great Carincha character, who's a lot of fun as well. You got a dude who's got a gun hidden in a banjo. which,
Yep.
you know, how are you ever going to say no to that? You know, that's definitely a thing. You have a completely silent Native American acrobat character who apparently has hidden trampolines all around the town there.
Or he's got like fucking hydraulic fucking knees or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. There were sequences in this film that made me think it was a Mario Brothers, you know,
really.
you know, in terms of like jumping from platform to platform. You know, anytime you have a character with this kind of preternatural aim going up against a team of acrobats, you're definitely not in a serious movie universe anymore. And just enjoying this, you know, open up a little bit of a beverage of your choice, make up some popcorn, sit and enjoy this film. This was a lot of fun. This is definitely the least of the three that we watched this week, but it was thoroughly enjoyable. I would absolutely. I mean, this is the sort of thing where I want to show this to people and go like, let's see how much fun a Western from 1969 can be. You know, just because it's light as a feather. There's nothing serious going on at all. And it's just cool little action shots. You know, I love when they're hiring the dude who's like the like his mom is like saying, go get the money, go get the money. You know, and he hires the guy, and the guy's like, oh yeah, look at me, look at how well I can shoot. And then the Sabata just takes him out in like 3 seconds. It's just over. You know.
Yeah. Nobody. None of the villains, at least, are in any danger of getting one up on Sabata because he's about 18 fucking steps ahead of everybody at every time. I mean, the movie is not designed to have any sort of real tension or wonder if the good guys are going to win. It's let's see how fucking cool Lee Van Cleef can be because he's just a badass who fucks with everybody in this film. He just at his leisure, he fucks with people, and it's fucking brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, he's just completely he just waltzes through it, right? I mean, it's complete. I did really admire, and when you say James Bond, it like clicks in my head, like the sequence with the pair of sequences with the dueling devices there. What do you call that?
I don't think I've ever seen a reference to that anywhere else. Like I'm almost wondering if that's unique to that film. I've never seen it before.
So it's like this setup where like they duel from behind these like metal, you know, like statue, like figurines, and so the whole thing is like you have to like fire through a certain hole in order to like, and you only have one shot. So it's just kind of visually fascinating. I mean, this is really, I mean, all three of these, but particularly Sabata, really well directed as well. I will definitely say, like, you know, that sequence, you know, it would be really easy. I mean, you kind of think about some of these, you know, kind of low budget westerns where they're just kind of shot with, you know, they put a camera down on sticks and, you know, point it in the general right direction. This isn't that. I mean, you really get this kind of strong sense of visuals. You really get this kind of, particularly during that sequence where you're looking through holes and you have to kind of figure out what's going on without they're not telling you. You have to kind of be able to actually watch it. There's a lot of really interesting kind of visual direction here. Nothing that's like, you know, earth-shattering, but for the genre, for the time period, for the budget, really, really effectively done. And it just kind of adds to the just kind of like eye candy of it. I mean, it's just, I mean, it's almost like that's as far as I go with this. It's just this sort of cool eye candy movie. You know.
Yeah, it feels like some of these movies these days that are like criticized as being all style over substance, but this one just works on a different level. I feel like it's sort of like a Robert Rodriguez movie before Robert Rodriguez was doing movies, right? Like,
no, this is, I mean, particularly when you're talking about like, again, a rifle and a banjo, like clearly Desperado. You know, Robert Rodriguez had not seen this film before he wrote Desperado. You know?
And the character of Banjo, William Berger, who was also a big name in spaghetti westerns for quite a while. I mean, he was actually in the official Django sequel as the old gunfighter at the beginning of the film.
Oh, nice.
Because he doesn't look it here, but he was actually pretty old at this point. He was like in his late 40s, I think, at this point. So
he looks a little bit like a dude in a wig. Like there's a little bit of a sense of like some kind of name actor like putting on a bad wig just to like play this role. I mean, that might have been his real hair. I don't know, but it definitely looks like, you know, There's a little bit of a fakiness to it, which I think, for me, it was just charming because it just kind of played up the unreality of this scenario even more.
And it plays to his character, too, because he's this, like, really roguish troubadour kind of bard character who's also kind of a scumbag. I mean, the way this guy treats the female characters in this...
Yeah. Poor Jane.
It's just...
Poor Jane.
Yeah, Jane's like, oh, we're going to run off together. And he lets her pack up. And get already...
And they're like, no, I wasn't taking you, bitch. Go. Like, you know, it was just like, oh, God.
I said I was just passing through. And that's the kind of thing where it's like, okay, he's a bit bigger of a scumbag than Sabata and his buddies, so he's the one you don't root for.
Right. Oh, he's a total douchebag. I mean, Sabata's just kind of, he's looking to make some money, but he's not a bad guy, like this is,
Well, they hint that Sabata and Banjo knew each other in the past. Right. So it's like Banjo's like, I don't recognize you, Sabata. You're not like you used to be. So you get the idea that Sabata's kind of mellowed in his old age. He's a bit more reformed. Yeah, and
he used to be a righteous bastard, and now he's kind of going off and righting wrongs. Just kind of making some money on the side.
But I think Berger almost kind of he almost threatens to steal the film away from Lee Van Cleef to a certain extent here because he's just really good. Like, and then he's the only real guy that you kind of buy as maybe a threat to Sabata because you get that sequence where this gang of people who are looking for him finally catch up to him in the town, and he has to fight them out in the streets there, and then he pulls off that nice little stunt sequence with his fucking gun and his banjo and wipes them all out.
Right, yeah. No, which is a fun sequence. It's a nice little, again, well directed. It's a lot of fun. Again, for the budget, for the time, nobody did that better. Like, I mean, that's about as well as that can be done at that time. To me, this is just straight up nicely produced action filmmaking. And it's a reminder that I think we kind of certainly I won't speak for you, but certainly I kind of focus on like look at these films for kind of what they're trying to say and what they're meaning and, these kind of like the darker, more elemental stuff that's kind of going on underneath. And this says none of that. This is just completely, like, this is why this genre was basically the populist genre for 50 years. And, it's not, there's no deeper meaning in this film, like, at least explicitly. I mean, you could read stuff into it, but this really is just... let's sit and have a good time and watch a fun Western story for 2 hours.
Yeah.
I really love the Corinthia character. I mean, he could have gotten grading. I mean, there was a real potential for that. But I really love this guy. I mean, I compared him to Falstaff in the, I started having like Falstaff Prince Hal. Like, can we make this metaphor? Is there like a Shakespeare illusion going on in here? Because he's so obviously, like, he's got the hair and he's a big guy and he's drinking all the time. And you're kind of like, I can. I mean, there's a little bit of that kind of like charming, roguish, drunk guy,
Yeah.
And then, but this guy throws knives. So, how cool is that?
I like how basically little things at the beginning of this film pay off in the end. Just with Corinthia's character, where he's always complaining about how he's not respected and he's got this medal and he was in these battles back in the war and stuff. And he's like, everyone's basically, no, your medal's not worth shit, but in the end it ends up saving him. As much of a Hollywood cliche it is of the bullet hitting the medal and not killing the guy, it pays off for Corinthia in a way I think works better than 90% of the time. So that's really cool. I like how early on you see Sabata, not only his gunplay brilliance, but just the fact that he's got this unique way of, like throwing coins. Like he waves the barmaid away and throws the coin into the slot there, and that pays off in the end as well, where he uses it to trip off the main villain's secret weapon in his little scepter there that he's got.
Well, you kind of get the sense. I mean, I'm glad you brought this up because I was going to mention it as well. You kind of almost get the sense that it's not just that he's good with guns; that he's that good with his hands. He has that level of like preternatural control over like flinging objects, and then it just carries on to guns. Did you get the impression that during the gambling sequence he could like make it like he rolled a 5 on purpose?
Oh yeah, totally.
That's how good he is. He can literally roll a dice and make it go whatever he wants it to do, which is, I mean, again, it just plays up that like this is completely ridiculous like level of control and badassery, but I didn't mind it in the slightest.
No, he's like somewhere between Sean Connery and Roger Moore, James Bond, where he can always win at Baccarat. It's like there's no question that he's going to win. It's not like Daniel Craig where he's playing truer to the Bond character, where he's a flawed Bond who might lose, who might fuck up. There's no fuck up with Lee Van Cleef. No,
not in this film anyway.
Yeah,
but, yeah. No, he's no. This was again tons of fun. I definitely revisit this. I mean, again. This is like I now want to see the other two. I mean, are the other two this much fun?
I'll get into that. The sequel, Adios Sabata, is a Yul Brynner vehicle that originally was not going to be a Sabata film. They were interested in bringing Lee Van Cleef into it with the success of Sabata. It was basically just an existing script. And we're like, hey, Van Cleef, you want to come back? He's like, no, I can't do it. I've got other commitments. He was doing sequel to The Magnificent Seven at that point, I think. Which I've never seen those, but I heard they're not that good. But it's interesting. He's playing the character that Yul Brynner played in the original Magnificent Seven, apparently, in that thing. But one of those little coincidences. But yeah, it's not nearly as good. It doesn't feel like a Sabata film at all. He does have a sort of a gimmicky gun, but it's not necessarily a gimmick so much as it is just a weird, obtuse kind of gun that existed at one point that most people never used. Right. But yeah, it's kind of charming, and we will get to it, I think, when we revisit this series down the road. But yeah, it's not as good. Then there's a third film called Return of Sabata with Van Cleef actually returning, and I'd say it's not as good as well because it goes maybe a little too over the top with the stunt work and the unreality of the whole situation. Like it goes firmly into more of a straight out comedy, which is more close to another character that is sort of famous in the spaghetti westerns, which is the Trinity character, where it becomes what is called basically the circus spaghetti westerns, where it just so over the top that I kind of like it, but it's definitely. It almost feels like the lesser of the series, strangely enough, even though the second one isn't even really a Sabata movie. But yeah,
so it might be worth just sticking to the first one for now. Like I watched it. I was kind of like, hey, yeah. Like if the other two are this much fun, I totally throw it on sometime soon. But I'll wait. I'll wait for us to cover it then if they're not that good.
But yeah, there were other sort of unofficial Sabata films as well, just like with Django, where the name, Arriva Sabata. There was Wacho Gringo, Sabata Will Return, and there was another one. Oh no, I think those were the only ones. It definitely wasn't as bad as Django. You didn't see Sabata thrown all over the place, but there were a few rip-off films from this. As far as the DVD info goes, MGM has a trilogy box set, which I own, which is fantastic. And there's no real special features or anything. It's just the films, bare bones with subtitles and language tracks and stuff, and that's all you really need. That came out in 2006, or you can get the single disc of this outside of the box set for in 2007. There's also a 2005 UK release of this from MGM, and also Kino Lorber Video, which also does a lot of really good sort of releases themselves. They buy up like the library of MGM spaghetti westerns and have been releasing stuff. There's a Blu-ray that was released in 2014 of this, so that's the sort of stuff to look for.
Nice. I will just say, just before we move on, that the Italian title of this is "Hey Buddy, that's Sabata, you're finished!" Exclamation point. Which really should be it sells the tone of the film better than just calling it Sabata, personally, for me,
Well, yeah, that's pretty much the plot description anyway, isn't it?
I mean, it's kind of like, to me, I read that title, like, as I was watching the film, I kind of pulled it up, and I'm like, oh, that's the original, like, and that means the entire film was basically told through the eyes of Caricia there, Like you're kind of like, okay, and I kind of want him to just be like our Greek chorus, like actually telling this story. Like in reality, we're seeing this like impossibly accurate gunsman, through the eyes of his buddy, who's just telling all these great stories about him. And like the real version wasn't nearly this cool, but that's sort of the way I envision it. It's like he's telling this folk tale about his buddy Sabata. So
Yeah. Okay, now we can move on to the Grand Duel, or the Big Showdown, as it's also known in certain markets, from 1972.
I saw who killed old man Saxon. A sheriff can't collect the bounty from the bandits he kills. I never kill for money. What do you want in Saxon City, Clayton? I'm after a man. Dead? You move that, I'll get some target practice. That's only good for making noise.
Just a moment, Marshal. This man was only defending himself.
You shouldn't be wearing this anymore. Easy's taking candy from a baby.
You think I'd still be alive if I liked to fool around with kids who like to play with guns?
Goes on blood. $5, it won't wash out. Remove your rope. That man is innocent. No witnesses, not even friends.
Sorry, Mr. Saxon. I want to apologize. Now, wait a minute.
Make this an era of peace and of order. They're not afraid anymore. I'll take the place of my father. You know why? 'Cause dead people don't need a leader!
Directed by Giancarlo Santi, who is probably well known for being a sort of second unit director for most of the Leone films, and also for Death Rides a Horse. He was involved in that as well. So
Nice.
yeah, and written by Ernesto Gastaldi, starring Lee Van Cleef as Sheriff Clayton, Alberto Dentis as Philip Vermeer, Jess Hahn as Big Horse, the stage driver, Horst Frank as David Saxon and the patriarch Samuel Saxon, Klaus Grunberg as Adam Saxon, Antonio Cassell as Hole, the bounty hunter, Mark Mazza as Sheriff Eli Saxon, and Dominique Darrell as Elizabeth. And I'll let you get into the synopsis there, Daniel.
A dude who looks like he stepped out of a Bee Gees cover band is in hiding with a beautiful girl, with assassins training their weapons on him, ready to shoot the second he shows his face. This is Philip Vermeer. Into this powder keg waltzes a sheriff named Clayton Lee Van Cleef, and when I say waltz, I mean that literally, as he basically walks in, exposes all the shooters' positions, and basically dares them to shoot him. The shooters are after a $3,000 bounty that has been placed on Vermeer's head for supposedly killing the literal patriarch of the film named Saxon. The bounty has been put up by Saxon's three sons named David, Eli, and Adam. Needless to say, Vermeer's role in the death of the patriarch is less than certain.
Mm-hmm.
What follows is a fairly complicated series of events. As first, Clayton rescues Vermeer from the terrible situation, only to have Vermeer escape from Clayton himself and be chased down by agents of the three brothers. There's a bank robbery somewhere in there, a sequence in which Vermeer is tortured under a waterfall, a massacre of fellow criminals by one of the wealthy asshole brothers, and some strong homosexual undertones. The film ends with an extended sequence in which Clayton reveals that he himself was the killer of the patriarch, who was a sociopathic murdering bastard who deserved to die, which leads to a shootout between Clayton and the three brothers. Is Clayton a good enough shot to dispatch the three all by his lonesome? Is he played by Lee Van fucking Cleef?
I got to say, for me personally, this is the lesser of the three films we looked at. This is the sort of, we're getting into the tail end of spaghetti westerns at this point. They were pretty much all played out by the early late 70s. But this is kind of a return to form as well, because like we were saying in the previous film, Sabata, we're getting more towards these sort of stunt-heavy circus spaghetti westerns with a lot of comedy and stuff like that. This one kind of exercises a lot of that, although it does retain the stunt work. There's quite a few scenes here. Yeah. But this is a film that doesn't hide its central mystery quite as well. And I feel that's the biggest downfall of this film for me. I still like it, but this film for me kind of drags in the middle quite a bit. Like, it starts out with a big bang, like there's this big action sequence. Lee Van Cleef walks in, he's super fucking cool, and all this shit happens. And then it sort of slows down for the middle part, where after the second flashback sequence, okay, I get it. It's Lee Van Cleef. He killed the patriarch. We know it. Let's get to the end now, and then it takes its time getting to the end. But yeah, what are your initial thoughts on this one?
I'll be honest, this one confused me a bit. Like, when I was watching it, I wasn't, and I mean, partly that's because, I'm kind of watching this, and it's first watch through, and, it was late, and I had a beer in my hand, kind of watching through it, and I kind of lost track of, like, because I think when I first, I knew the film was called Grand Duel or The Big Showdown. I think the version I watched actually had The Big Showdown as its title, which I think is a better title, honestly. I actually kind of like that, just as a, kind of a little bit more of a classic, 50s Western almost,
Grand Duel feels more personal, like one-on-one kind of thing, so.
Yeah, and Grand Duel feels a little bit more like psychological, kind of like almost a psychological horror kind of idea, almost like a giallo or something that could have the title Grand Duel. Where Big Showdown just feels like classic Western to me, anyway. We get to argue titles on this show because they all have 15 titles, so we get to decide which one we like the best. I think watching this, because I just kind of sit down and I hit play and I don't know anything about it. I just try to watch it and just take it as is. I was kind of on that, like, so the movie is about a big showdown or a grand duel, and he's walking into this situation. I literally thought the entire film was going to be about this showdown, basically, starting here at the very beginning. Like, eventually he's going to, like, find this guy, and then you're going to end up, it's going to be about this kind of cast of characters all kind of, like, interacting and sort of be like a Bad Day at Black Rock kind of situation or something like that. That's kind of where I thought the film was going. And so then when, we're kind of like, we kind of see, we're kind of moving on from that, and then we see kind of a bank robbery. And I'm like, there was a part of me that I was like, did I miss something? Are we in flashback mode here, or have we moved on from this? I mean, so there's a little bit of connective tissue that I feel like I lost on watching it. That said, I know that you kind of think the ending kind of is telegraphed and extended just a little bit. I actually really liked the ending. I think the film really saved me at the end. It really wants that piece of music, the Bacalov music, which was used also very effectively in Kill Bill, and I know it very well from Kill Bill because it's in the what is now like, that's where Tarantino got that scene from, where the origins of
although that's directly taken. The music's taken from Grand Duel, but the scene is taken from Death Rides a Horse, because essentially that's Death Rides a Horse.
Yeah, no, that's what I was going to say. It's essentially, that kind of origin story. This is not the time or the place to have the Tarantino conversation, but, I'm a big fan of Tarantino. I don't care that he's kind of lifted that because he's doing something else with it. Ultimately, having seen this, it doesn't make me think, well, clearly Tarantino's a hack. It makes you think, God, he's remixing all this stuff and doing some really interesting stuff with it. So, but anyway, so I just love that piece of music. So they could play that. They played it like 8 or 9 times in the film. You could have played it 12 or 15 times as far as I was concerned. I actually listened to that piece of music while writing the plot summaries as well. Nice. I actually listen to spaghetti western scores often when I'm at home, when I'm doing stuff. Most of the plot summaries are written listening to Morricone's Once Upon a Time in the West score. Yes. That's actually what I'm listening to for most of them. A little behind the scenes there for the listening audience of 4 people.
No, it's 10 now. We established that.
No, I quite like the ending. I really like the kind of cutting to black and white. There's a little bit of a Rashomon kind of thing going on. You know, it's not hugely sophisticated, but it's there. I kind of like the kind of mixing of genres because it kind of feels a little bit like a crime film. For a little while, it kind of has a little bit of that. I mean, I don't know. The mystery was not. I mean, I guess I didn't really think about, like, oh, who's it going to be? I just kind of, like, I mean, it's fairly obvious that, well, it's got to be the one dude who, you know, like, they're not going to introduce a new character and go, oh, it was such and such, and then suddenly introduce him at the end of the film. I didn't really mind, though, that it's kind of, you know, it kind of has to be Lee Van Cleef. I think it, just because visually it works for me. You know,
sequences are really good. Those flashback sequences, they look fantastic.
Right. I think this is the richest thematically of the three films. I think that there's, I mean, when you have a character literally named the Patriarch of the last name Saxon, and, you know, this kind of like the three brothers who have their kind of personalities, and there's some dynamics kind of going on with them that seem like, I mean, the middle of the film is a little bit messy because, again, you kind of don't quite know what's going on. It feels like there's a lot of kind of running around and not a lot of forward momentum going on. But I feel like there's an attempt to do something that's kind of thematically interesting, and I just haven't had the chance to tease it out yet. I think it's probably, I mean, it honestly might be my favorite of the three, even though I don't. Yeah, I mean, I actually really liked all three of these films. As far as I'm concerned, you have two minor masterpieces and then a really fun, you know, kind of action film in Sabata. Because I really liked Death Rides a Horse, but that was more for, like, characters. You know, that was more for, I really loved those two characters, and the film was kind of like, oh, yeah, the film is the film, but, like, I really loved those two actors. I think Grand Duel is probably the most ambitious of the three. Whether it succeeds at what it's doing is kind of another question. But I really enjoyed it, and I actually was sitting there watching it, and I'm like, I could see us doing a live com for this because there are so many little moments. I was like, oh, I'd love to joke with Lee about that, you know?
Well, Grand Duel definitely is the more ambitious film. I mean, it's directly Giancarlo Santi sort of aping the stuff he learned with Leone, doing second unit and assistant director stuff. So he's kind of aping the style. He's kind of actually bringing the style back because at that point, the sort of Leone stuff was kind of out the window. Like I said, I do like this film. It's just, for me, the middle kind of bogs down a little too much. But, I mean, I still like the performance. Well, I like Lee Van Cleef's performance. I'm not too big on Alberto Dentis. I think he's kind of, like you said, he looks like he should be at a Bee Gees reunion tour or something. But he just doesn't quite work as well as, like, a Clint Eastwood or a John Philip Law does in that sort of a younger gunfighter kind of.
I feel like there's an attempt, like, and this is kind of where, you know, we have to kind of like take it as like the visuals have to speak for themselves, right? Because in so many of these kinds of films, they're set in this imagined past, but they're really talking about some kind of contemporary thing, and making this guy look very clearly like a 25-year-old in 1972, you know. And it feels like, I mean, that could just be they just hired a guy and they didn't bother to like cut his hair, or it could be like there's some attempt to kind of address something. And so I feel like, you know, this is it does kind of make me want to revisit it and go, is there something deeper going on that I just kind of missed that we're getting hints of, or is it, you know, or is it just kind of like a mess? And I can't decide. But I was fascinated by the film, and it's probably the one I would revisit first. If I was going to revisit one, you know, I'd probably rewatch Grand Duel first, just because I feel like one watch through didn't give me the full experience of it. I feel like there's more going on than I get on the first watch through.
Yeah, that's fair. I think the thing I really like about this is the villains, and I feel like they're kind of shortchanged a little bit at the end. I like that they all do have distinct personalities. I mean, Horse Frank manages to, in silence, pull off the patriarch and make him feel like a totally different character than David Saxon to a certain degree. And this is a Italian, German, French co-production. So you've got German actors like Horst Frank and Klaus Grunberg in this, you know, to bring the money to the picture, essentially. And Klaus Grunberg, who plays, you know, again, another evil homosexual in a spaghetti western. Actually, just like the main villain Sabata as well, is another sort of evil dandy at the very least. You know,
the limp wristed sociopath, right? You know?
Yeah. But great character. He's got the chicken pox scars on his face, you know, and man, that scene where he guns down that old guy, and the old guy touches him, and he's more offended and put off by the fact that he's got a blood print on his clean white suit.
I guess all three of these also are really kind of about this, you know, this idea of wealth, of you know, this accumulation of wealth, and this kind of coming of that civilization brings gold and money with it, but like that this money is like a corrupting influence, or, you know, and this film is definitely, I mean, you know, in the sense that our villains are explicitly, you know, these rich guys literally plotting in back rooms and like rubbing their hands together. Evilly, you know, I mean, there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah, he has that little speech like, pretty soon we'll have enough money to own this entire state. And then who knows, maybe there'll be a Saxon in the White House, apparently, in the future. Yeah, it's like, yeah.
And the fact that their name is Saxon, just like it, that can't be a coincidence, right? There has to be something there, you know. So again, there's something that, you know, it's I would say it's trying to be Once Upon a Time in the West, but it's not nearly Once Upon a Time in the West. You know? I mean, it's kind of playing in that same pool, but it's not in any sense like that effective. But, you know, not as good as the greatest of the Leone westerns is, you know. Okay, that's faint praise, right? You know.
Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, I mean, the director knows all the tricks, and he, for the most part, he pulls it off. I just think maybe the story's not as strong.
The weakness is not on the directing side. I guess I should point that out. I mean, the direction is phenomenal. I mean, all three of these films are extremely well directed. I have no issue with any of that. And the performances are. I mean, you know, you're right that, you know, BG looking dude is not the strongest performer I've ever seen in a film, but you know, Van Cleef carries all three beautifully, and for the most part, it's pretty, you know, it's solid, you know, solid, dependable stuff, you know, for the most part. But I mean, you know, you're right. Grand Duel is like, if there is a weakness, it is on the script, and just, I mean, the fact that I managed to get lost in this, which isn't that complicated a plot, but it's complicated enough that I just kind of like, I wasn't sure exactly where I was in any given time. It probably has a few too many characters, you know, kind of wandering around.
Yeah, for nine, like, this is pretty much the shortest film of the three we watched, but this is the one that feels like it drags a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It kind of, if I can comment, it kind of feels a little bit like one of the lesser 70s Doctor Who stories, you know, where there's a little bit of a runaround in like episode 3.
Yeah,
where it just kind of happens for a while, you know. That's it. Sort of has that like impression, you know, like, I don't care, just get me back to the people I care about, and, you know, let's watch them be charming together. You know, that's sort of the As much as I think the final gunfight is anticlimactic, like, there's interesting stuff in it, like visually, like you get that wide shot at the very first there where it's a square corral with a circle corral in the middle, so it's a little bit of a change up, but at the same time it's the same as like all the Leone stuff where all the final battles take place in a circle. In this case, Lee Van Cleef has to walk through a circle and come to the other end of it and fight the three brothers. I like how the three brothers, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but this is something I picked up on, and this is something I've never seen in any review or talk about it. And it's just a little thing, but David Saxon, the main guy, he's got a gold-plated gun. And then you go to Adam Saxon, he's got a silver-plated gun, and then Sheriff Eli Saxon, he's got like a bronze-plated gun. So it's almost like denoting their characters by medal rankings. Your importance is determined by the quality of your gun. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, no, I did not catch that detail, but yeah, that's interesting. And watching this, you know, at the end, I actually thought the dude had like killed Lee Van Cleef. I thought he shot him in the head. Like, I legitimately thought, like, holy shit, that's an ending. You know, like
that would have been something.
Oh no, didn't go there, but you know, okay,
winged them. Of course, we are missing the soundtrack. Louis Balakov, or Bakalov. It's absolutely fantastic, and of course, Quentin Tarantino ripped this one too. So, he knows the good stuff to fucking take for his own. DVD info for this one. There's a 2013 DVD from Blue Underground. It's the one I own. It's excellent. It's actually got a good little sort of commentary from two journalists who are familiar with Italian cinema. They're not so much familiar with like just exploitation cinema in general, but they are really well versed in just how Italian cinema was done back then. So there's a running commentary, no dead spots. Lots of good info. Definitely worth picking up if you can find it. Wild East, again, they have a Beyond the Law and the Grand Duel dual pack from 2005. Apparently the print on that is pretty good. And if you want to find the Blu-ray on this, came out in 2012 from Mill Creek Entertainment, of all people, who are well known for doing the 50 movie packs and stuff like that. Yeah. But they do have a respectable line of good prints of films that they do release, especially the Blu-ray stuff. So they have a double pack of the Grand Duel and another Franco Nero Western, which is also kind of a late period spaghetti Western called Kioma, which is one we'll probably cover the next time we come around to these films. But
awesome.
Yeah. So you're saying the Grand Duel is essentially kind of overall kind of your favorite of the three films, though, that you
I think it's the most interesting of the three. I would probably say I'd want to watch it again before I'd say my favorite, but the one I'd want to come back to first. I like all three of these films. I mean, honestly, yeah. I really enjoy all three of these. This was a real pleasure this week, even though I kind of had to cram some of this in at the last minute, for personal reasons. But this was definitely actually this whole spaghetti Western series you've planned very well, because there hasn't been a real stinker in the bunch at all for me. But all three of these, I was my one issue was like watching three Lee Van Cleef films. I literally couldn't remember which one was which. Which scenes went in which, because you watch them all right after one after another, and you go like, hold on, which one had the waterfall sequence so the dudes get punched in the face? I can't remember. Is that Sabata or is that okay? No, okay. Yeah, I'd probably favorite is probably Death Rides a Horse. I think that's my favorite right now, but I definitely want to revisit all three of these at some point in the not too distant future. So
yeah, cool. For me, it's a real kind of tight race between Sabata and Death Rides a Horse. Sabata, just as much as I appreciate the kind of grittiness and stuff, and just the frankness of Death Rides a Horse, Sabata has this fucking charm that it just fucking sucks me in every time I watch it. So I don't know, but.
Well, Sabata's the most fun. I mean, there's no question. Sabata's the most fun. But I think it's also kind of because it's aiming for fun, it achieves fun, that's kind of it. It's kind of the least of the three, because it's not really doing anything else.
Yeah, okay. I can see that.
Ehi, amico, c'è Sabata. Hai chiuso.
Amico, c'è Sabata. Hai chiuso.
Ehi, amico.
C'è Sabata.
Hai chiuso.
Okay, now we're here with Paul for the second part of our conversation, and I'm with Paul, Awkward Hands Ramali. How are you doing, sir?
Pretty good. My Indian name is Fucks with a Fist.
Fucks with a Fist?
Yes, there you go. Doing good. Lack of sleep today, but still kicking ass and taking names. So
awesome. But we're back here with some more Lee Van Cleef. I think we can go right first with Death Rides a Horse from 1967. What are your sort of initial impressions of this one?
I want to say it's my favorite of the three overall. I like it. I just like the revenge complex is done well. The intermingling of the two characters. The kind of thing that about a lot of these, well, I don't know if this one is technically classified as spaghetti western. It probably is. Okay, good. They always have a tarnished hero. They never have an actual hero. He's always a bad guy, no matter what. And the same, it fits the form to a T on that aspect. But he's a good-hearted bad guy that will literally kill anything he needs to.
Yeah.
And it's one of those deals. Overall, very good movie.
Yeah. This sort of draws from the kind of character type that Van Cleef played in a lot of his films, where he's the older gunfighter who ends up being kind of a semi-mentor but rival to a younger gunfighter that's, basically they're both trying to achieve the same goal, more or less. What did you think of John Philip Law, though, as the younger gunfighter?
No, I actually really liked his part. I think he did it really well. I actually thought he played it. At first, I thought, I was like, wow, he's a baby face almost in a certain way, but at the same time, you kind of expected that.
Yeah.
But he still played a very, very hard, stone-faced individual. That tall, rugged, stone-faced individual, but still keeping that youthfulness that he needs to have. Kind of, it reminds me of the James Bond Casino Royale. Go in and try to fuck stuff up, but fuck up half the time because he's not experienced enough. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, you sort of get that impression that Van Cleef's kind of looking over his shoulder, yeah, you're going to make mistakes. He even says in the movie at one point.
The biggest one is lesson number 2: count your shots.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I like that. I like the kind of grasshopper vibe.
Yeah, even uses that in Grand Duel later on as well, with the character he's with there. But John Philip Law, I think I've seen some people sort of criticize, he's kind of wooden in this. No, I just see him as playing it kind of cold, he's this kid who's traumatized early on.
Yeah, exactly. Wouldn't you play it wooden? If you were traumatized, if you're going after, in my mind, he would. If once he has a beat on what he wants, you shut off the world around him. You just obsess about getting the bad guy. So he would play it fucking stone cold.
Yeah, he's got this really kind of controlled anger thing going on. Every once in a while he explodes, but for the most part you can just sort of see it seething under his skin, he's ready to jump on somebody.
Well, they always, they kind of overuse it to a certain extent, but they always have that kind of kind of flashbacks of his family, mom and sister getting raped and and the dad getting shot, and his anger thing of oh my god, it's that person, I'm gonna kill him, so it's interesting. They kind of overdo it to a certain extent, but it works.
Yeah. What did you think of the sort of semi-mystery angle to this one? Did you know from the start that Van Cleef was involved with the robber gang on that night, or did the movie keep that in the dark for you well enough?
It kept it in the dark enough because when you watch a movie and fast forward, you miss some things, some subtle things like that. When you're skipping through, it did have a tell. It was telling. It didn't give it exactly, but there was a definite tell at the beginning of the film. The good guy actually came right in. It didn't necessarily say to me at first, just from a brief glimpse at it the first time I watched it, that it was him or if it was exactly associated with that gang or whatever, but there was definitely some kind of interlink that would come out later in the film. So I wasn't surprised, let's just say, when it was revealed that, I came in late. Sorry, I couldn't do anything about it anyway, but I saved your life, so fuck you. You know, it was like, well, kill me if you want to. It definitely was telling, but it didn't ruin anything for me.
Yeah.
I just say that.
I think the film does, like, it's kind of hard to avoid spoilers, like, unless you're just going into this cold. It's hard to not know beforehand that Van Cleef is, involved with that gang, and to a certain extent, John Philip Blah's character has every right to kill him as well and gun him down.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, I think this movie does it fairly successfully. Like, I mean, unless you're really paying attention and trying to figure out the mystery, it doesn't become super obvious. Mm-hmm. You just sort of get this idea that, oh yeah, Van Cleef has some other, like, yeah, he was in the gang, but he's been in prison for 15 years, so you don't know if he was there that night. You don't know if he was double-crossed earlier before that, I felt that kind of worked pretty well.
My film that I watched first was this one. Mm-hmm. But I didn't look at the titles. I didn't look at the date. So when I was watching the other films, I was hoping it would explain more about this film. And sadly, I didn't get what I wanted.
Like I said before, Van Cleef kind of plays the same character in most of these spaghetti westerns. Like, he just sort of got typecast into a certain role as, like, the aging gunfighter mentor. Like, he sort of plays the same kind of thing in Grand Duel, although he's a sheriff in that one. But
yeah, there's in Kung Fu films, there's I can't remember his name. It's like Sun Fu Yang or something like that. That's his name. But his style was to play the old guy that comes in, the beggar, that's actually a master and teaches people. I mean, that was his thing.
Yeah, like you get in the Shaw Brothers films and stuff. You because it was kind of a company troupe kind of thing, like stock characters that they had that showed up in like tons of movies from the studio. You always got like some of these people playing exactly the same character over and over again. So yeah, and you get a lot of that in the Italian films too, because it was all just, okay, we got a ton of actors. They do this one thing really well. They're known for doing this one thing really well in like a more successful spaghetti western. So as with the Italian film industry, repeat everything that works and just keep running it to the ground.
It was the musical industries in the 50s. Mm-hmm. Oh, that was a hit. Make sure every song you do from now on sounds like that.
Yep, exactly.
Same kind of concept.
Yeah,
go with the money.
What did you think of how this film kind of looked? Like, I thought it was shot really well. Like, this is the first time I
know that this was a spaghetti western.
Oh yeah, because this is the best I've ever seen this film. Like, before I found this print on YouTube, I had only seen like public domain releases of this, which just looked like shit. And honestly, my appreciation for this movie went up tons with this watch for the podcast, because this is the first time I've ever seen it this good. So
you gave me the links, so I've never seen any of these films before. But I'll tell you, when I was watching, I tried to watch Grand Duel first, and I was watching, and I watched the other two, but excuse me. These films didn't seem like the classic spaghetti western I'm like, this is actually like a real not blockbuster, but like a really seriously well done, amazingly filmed western. Mm-hmm. Just in general. So I was like, is this a spaghetti western, or is he fucking with me? I'm not really sure. I'll have to ask him later.
Death Rides a Horse, especially kind of moves away from the style a little bit that you kind of come to expect with spaghetti westerns. Mm-hmm. Like, stuff is starting to move to a more fantastical, kind of comedic kind of style for a lot of spaghetti westerns. But this one goes like this one's pretty much dead serious. Like, there's a little bit of comedy between Van Cleef and Law, but for the most part, this film's like very violent, very serious, very to the point, very gritty as fuck. So it does feel like, some of the more American westerns that would come out in the preceding decade after this, that were influenced by spaghetti westerns being so gritty,
Well, isn't there another one that's like a pale horse named Death or something like that?
Are you thinking of Pale Rider?
Pale Rider? Yeah.
With Clint Eastwood?
Because I was going to say there's something that came off this. Because I got the title and I watched the film and I'm like, well, the guy's riding like a pale horse. And I was like, there's got to be something, because the funny thing is, part of me didn't exactly associate the title of the movie with Van Cleef's character. It actually, I more associated it with the Avengeful Child character. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's because he was just on a killing spree. I'm killing. And I like that kind of funny thing. Like, I'm just going to play with these guys Van Cleef's character is, I'm going to play with these guys to try to get as much money as humanly possible.
Yeah, because he's lost 15 years of his life, so he wants revenge on his gang for double-crossing him, but at the same time, yeah, I want to cash in, too, because I've got, my next 20, 30 years are going to be in poverty if I don't fucking do something right away.
Mm-hmm. Well, I like how he starts toying with him, like smashing his hands in the desks every time. He's like, "You're all the same.
You're all
you get
the
old,
same."
You start doing the same things, and I like that he knows they all are established now, and they don't want to lose what they have. But at the same time, they can't go right out and shoot him in public because they'll lose what they have. And he's just toying with them the whole time. And I'll tell you what, when he actually goes to the next town to meet the second guy involved, I didn't expect the floor to open. That was pretty.
Yeah,
good.
that was cool, wasn't it? Yeah,
I didn't expect the guys to just come up from underneath. I expected more like snakes and voodoo dolls and things like that. I don't know, spikes. And I don't know. I expected, but I was like, whoa, that I did not get that. I didn't expect that at all. I was like, that's pretty fucking good.
Yeah, that was a cool little sort of signature kind of thing too. Is the every member of the gang had that one like snake spur on their boot or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, that was a good little trick. And I mean, he says, you're all the same. You all got your guns in your drawers or whatever. Like he knows this gang from back in the day, and he knows that even though they're established now and they're in the upper echelon of society, they're still the same fucking scumbag, and they still do the same shit. They just hide it. They just hide it better now, right?
Yeah. They just try to protect what they have.
But yeah, you're over all thoughts. You said you thought this was the best out of all of them. So,
yeah, I mean, well, the thing is, it had two different plots working at the same time pretty well, like intermingling, because they were basically parallels to each other. Except one was I don't know what I'm doing, let's just shoot people. And the other one was like, I'm just trying to get money. Stop shooting these motherfuckers.
Yeah. Don't just wipe them all out because I actually have a plan where I'm going to try to get some of their money and stuff. So
my favorite joke line from the young one is because Lee Van Cleef is, back off or I'm going to get mad.
Yeah.
And then he stops and looks at him and goes, if I think what you think he is, get ready to get mad.
Yeah,
because I'm gonna shoot this son of a bitch. He's like, so get ready to get mad. I'm like, ooh, testy little bastard, aren't you? That was pretty good. I like that. Yeah. And I will say, I've never seen a jailbreak with a train before. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I've seen oxen, I've seen horses, I've seen drunk guys on barrels and like random things like that. I saw. No, wet shirt don't break. No, you said piss shirt bend bar in a Jackie Chan film. I've seen all kinds of jailbreaks, but I've never seen one with a train before. So I was like, well, congratulations.
That's kind of a thing you see in spaghetti westerns too. Is like some of the more standout ones. They generally have like some sort of interesting set piece, whether it be a jailbreak or a safe robbery or something like that. Like they have some sort of elaborate kind of set piece that sets things into motion. Usually you see them at the beginning of the film, but every once in a while, later on in the film. But yeah, and it's pretty effective here. You're right. Very, very well done.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, we'll move on to Sabata from 1969, and this is basically, I think this is the film that is designed to just show you how fucking cool Lee Van Cleef is. Like it's.
I mean, he move the bitch out of the way so I can start to play piano.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, did I just watch this?
Yeah.
Did this actually just happen? Because there is the whole first 20 minutes of the film is just him being a badass. It just, they're selling this character as hard as they fucking can.
You're getting a little later into the spaghetti westerns now. They're going to be dead by about the mid-70s. This is much more kind of playing off the more comedic aspects, and it's also, at this time, you're seeing James Bond becoming like a big influence on these sort of things. So they were kind of implementing that. Like there's just gadgets all through this fucking thing, like trick guns, trick weapons.
So Q was there. The Western Q was inventing things at some point.
There's got to be someone there doing that shit.
Well,
because
I'll tell you what. The one thing that I can definitely tell that Death Rides a Horse did not have as much as Sabata is eye candy.
Oh yeah.
They just took the eye candy to that next level. I'm like, oh, good.
Yeah,
nice,
they
tiny
definitely.
chicken.
Yeah, I mean, the roles of women in all three of these films are pretty minimalized, especially in Death Rides a Horse.
They are definitely accurate.
Yeah, yeah.
This is the way things are supposed to be.
Yeah, period accurate. You know, like
period accurate.
But here, at least you get some women to actually look at, and even a couple of them have some lines. So you know, a little bit different from Death Rides a Horse. But yeah, Lee Van Cleef is like presented as like just the ultimate fucking badass in this, and he just fucks with everybody through the whole movie.
The whole thing that you'll get out of these films is guns are like the secondary, like shooting people. That doesn't actually matter. We use it to open things and take things off and undress women and take bells off guys' shoulders and fuck this and make barrels explode. And, well, shooting guys, that's just a secondary thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
we break fucking legs. We break, chair legs. We make guys eat their soup. I mean, like, it's just, it's fun. I mean, this, especially Sabata, just has a lot of moments like that where it's just fun gunplay.
So yeah, this was basically, like I said, this is kind of designed to riff on the sort of more spy genre kind of spaghetti westerns and comedy genre spaghetti westerns without going full blown comedy. Like it's just kind of like funny moments and stuff that catches your eye, and it's also sort of built upon Lee Van Cleef aping his look he had in the For a Few Dollars More, sort of playing that sort of same character where he's got the black clothes, he's got that sort of I don't know what the fuck it's called, but the sort of cape kind of thing.
The duster, he's got the duster, and he has the Undertaker look, and I like that. I like him in that look. I like that. He was a little more ragtag in Death Rides a Horse.
Yes, yeah.
Trying to rebuild after being in jail for 15 years, you wouldn't expect him to have something that's really nice.
Yeah, and so he's kind of playing off his Colonel Mortimer character from For a Few Dollars More, and he's got sort of the same. Actually, that character kind of preceded the sort of more spy influence characters that would come later, because Colonel Mortimer was kind of a specialist, like he had some unique guns and stuff like that. Here, it's just taken like tenfold. He's got all these sort of like unique weapons and tricks up his sleeve, you know.
Well, I mean, they keep on telling like a gun can't shoot that far. Oh, I'm dead. Like he keeps on saying, 600 yards. That's great. You know, I'm like, wow, okay, yeah, that's pretty good, because there's guns now that can't shoot that fucking far. So, but like, yeah, he's trying to be the specialist of the Western world.
Yeah, he's got a almost like we were saying how Django kind of has almost kind of a supernatural quality to him as far as shooting and stuff. Sabata is definitely he's a trick shooter. Like he's a very good sharpshooter, trick shooter. Like to the point where almost to the detriment of this film, I never bought at any time that Sabata was in any trouble at all, because I always knew he was going to be able to shoot his way out of shit, right?
Right. Like, and then something like in Django, when you see him get really fucked up, you question that. But with Sabata, it's like, nah, it's all be all right. It's good. Yeah. Now, they did, like you mentioned, the James Bond thing. They do the arch nemesis very well in this film. That I am this egomaniacal sociopath, that I am so much better than the other human race, and I am this and this. And he's reading the Inequality of the Social Standard book.
Yes.
And quoting things out of it to be like, oh, by the way, and every time I'm going to, quote this book, I'm going to shoot some bitch. That kind of thing. I thought it was very interesting. Of course, the first time it's actually shown where he's duping the guy with the balls, with the black and white balls, he doesn't use that. They go right back. They go right into shooting each other.
Yeah.
But then later, it comes into the play later, and that was really nice, because getting blackballed is actually a Masonic thing.
Oh, okay.
Because that was originally stated to get people into the Masons. If you all had white balls, you were good, because that's how they cast their votes, with white balls and black balls. If you got one single black ball in your vote, you weren't allowed in. So that's where that came from. So that's the Masonic. That's a Masonic thing. Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. And like the first instance of that just goes into shooting, because the guy he kills wasn't interested in playing the game. He just wanted to shoot out with the guy.
He just wanted to shoot the play. Yeah. I love his like contradicting piece of shit line about how I like to live on the edge of death. The whole. I'm like, yeah, it seems like it is, but you're edging everything to your favor. The stakes are all in your favor. That's not living on the edge of death. That's fucking a guy.
Yeah, he is a master kind of manipulator. Like, he rigs everything in his favor. So I mean, he's not taking a chance at all. Like it takes Sabata coming into his life to actually put him on that edge.
He needed the wild card to fuck him over, is whatever. Yeah. And like they really picked the right character to show this like snooty, almost, I don't know how to describe that, upper echelon weird, because he's very effeminate.
Oh yeah, he's definitely playing like again with spaghetti westerns. They don't treat women very well. They don't treat gays very well either. Like he's very much the evil, sadistic gay guy who likes to kill people. You know, like I mean, you know, if people are going to be offended by anything in this film, it would probably be that. And you know, well, whatever, get over it. It's a fucking movie. But
at this time, I am not surprised when some fucking limp-wristed idiot is offended by anything anymore. I'm never surprised. Like they're going to get offended by me just saying it like that. I'm just never surprised. I mean, they didn't even use a Native American to play a Native American.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to piss like most people off just in general.
Yeah.
Tucker can jump though.
Oh
he
yeah,
can jump. Tucker can jump. You know.
Yeah, that was another thing that was sort of coming into movies at that point for spaghetti western. Like they were doing the spy thing, they were doing more comedy, and they were throwing stunt work into shit. Like lots of stunt work, supernatural stunt work. There's no way that guy jumps off that fucking roof without breaking his fucking kneecaps. Like,
boing, boing, wow. Pretty good. I like it. But they even have Lee Van Cleef do that in one scene.
Yeah, but it's not Van Cleef.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, but I was like, he would have fucking fucked himself up so bad if he jumped off that building. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Okay, if you can make Alley Cat do this, yeah, he's a Native American. He's in a good shape. He's young, sure, whatever. But could you not have fucking Sabata do it because he's gonna break his legs?
Yeah,
I didn't buy that for 1 second.
No,
he could at least jumped on his horse or something.
Yeah, because if anything, they play Sabata as like the master kind of. He's a great trick shooter, sharpshooter, and he's a master manipulator. He's always like a couple steps ahead of everybody. He doesn't need to do anything like that. He already knows. He's already got his game plan set out before him. He doesn't need to jump off a fucking roof or anything. And Van Cleef, there's no way he could have done that because by that point he had his car accident, which had broken his arm in 2 places and had broken his fucking kneecap. So he was effectively crippled for quite a while. Just to go to show what a tough motherfucker Van Cleef was, his doctor told him he'd probably never walk again without like a massive limp. But he managed to overcome that. But he was, he was in pain for the rest of his life. But he did actually pick himself up and overcome that shit. So
there's definitely a lot of interesting tells that weren't tells at first, but when you rewatch it, like when he talks to Banjo, when Banjo's asking for money, and he puts like when he's talking about the chest they steal, it turns out he's like, hey, by the way, make yourself look like a fucking painting because they're coming in to shoot you. Like I love that.
Yeah.
Like I was like that. So awesome. Oh wow. And he did it so well. I mean, like 2 or 3 different times where he fucks with the trained killers and makes them just pull rookie mistakes.
Yeah.
And it's great. And like you said, you don't have to worry about him in the film.
No.
You're like, oh, he's just going to kill everybody.
The only guy who's in any danger of killing him is Banjo, and like throughout the most of the film, it's so back and forth. Like you don't know whether Banjo's on his side or whether Banjo is, going to plot against him. And even Banjo doesn't really know. Like Banjo plays it like he's always, he's planning as well. But he's always saying in the film, "I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting. I'm going to see what happens."
I'm in whatever side. I'm on whatever side fits good right now. And he can't get away from the fact that he's a bit of a scumbag.
Yeah.
Like if you would have just not fucked anybody over, you could have got half of everything. But you had to be the dick.
Well, yeah, Banjo's a massive fucking dick. Like he's got women throwing themselves at him, and I'm just passing through town, baby. See you later.
And she's the best eye candy in the film.
Yeah, and he waits until she packs up her bags and comes to him at the wagon, and he's like, "Oh, didn't I already tell you? I'm just passing through town. See you later, bitch." And then he's out of there. Like,
you think you're coming? And it gave you that Little House on the Prairie happy ending music too. When they're going to the wagon, and he just is like, "Oh wait, you're actually thinking you're coming with me? Gotta go."
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm like, "Oh fuck me, man."
He's one of my favorite spaghetti western characters of all time, and he almost steals this film from Lee Van Cleef. Like he's that fucking good.
I just kind of wish Banjo had some cool stuff too, like because he had a shotgun when he shot Lee Van Cleef in the neck to even up.
Yeah,
I thought it'd be great if the Banjo had a gun in it.
It did.
Like Oh, did it? Because I was like, I wasn't sure.
Okay,
I was like,
here's where the fast forwarding hurts you, sir.
Okay,
because
like I thought he was holding a shotgun when he shot Lee Van Cleef that time.
Oh yeah, he did. But he did, one of his gimmicks was he did have a space in his banjo where he had a gun. So like there's the scene where it's implied early on in the film that Banjo is running from somebody. That's why he's in the same town. He just happens to be there, and he runs into Van Cleef. Mm-hmm. He's like, yeah, I ran into some problems up north or whatever, and now I'm hiding out here. And then this fucking gang shows up looking for him, and he has to fight them on the streets. And there's like 4 or 5 guys, and he's just got his banjo and he's strumming it, and then he fucking wipes them all out because he's got the fucking shotgun
in the banjo.
Yeah, well, not shotgun, but rifle. He's got it in the fucking banjo, and he shows off that the fact that he's as good as Van Cleef. Like he's just.
I completely missed that.
Well, there you go.
I must
go back and rewatch them.
Must have had a bathroom break. I'm not sure. Yeah, that one I actually completely don't even remember seeing, and I actually watched Sabata. That was pretty crazy.
And that was his gimmick. Like, and it was cool. Like he's got the fucking lever action rifle or whatever. So he's got that like opened up, and he just points the fucking banjo and goes.
I like that, and there's a lot of things about this film that I really, really like, and I'm not actually sure which one's my favorite. Really like Death Rides a Horse, but I did like Sabata quite a bit too. Yeah,
Sabata for me, I keep going back and forth, but I think I gotta edge out Sabata just because it's so well done. Like it starts out with the fucking robbery of the bank, which is really well done. It's got like a couple different plots going on because you got the robbery of the bank, you got the initial thieves. They're just pawns being used by the main bad guys who are the sort of upper echelon guys in the town who are trying to rob the bank.
Little high class oligarchy. They kind of make sure,
And those thieves are wiped out like early on in like the first act of the film. The plot changes. Like you think, okay, it's going to be about Sabata hunting down these thieves. No, it's the fucking upper echelon guys that he's going after. Yeah, there's all these different little plot points going. Then and Banjo has his own plot stuff going on. The other 2 guys, shit, do I have their fucking names here? Carincha, I guess is the fucking name, is the drunk guy who's got he's got his war medal or whatever that isn't worth shit to anybody, but saves them in the end, you know?
Leave your lice alone.
Yeah.
You lice farmer.
And then Alley Cat, which is he's almost kind of a ripoff of Navajo Joe, the Burt Reynolds Indian. But he's much more acrobatic, of course.
Every time I see a fucking Native American character that's not Native American, I just think of F Troop. And every time I saw Klinger play a fucking Native American, it was just awesome.
Oh yeah. It's a spaghetti western. They're not going to pay the money to fly some Native American over to Italy or Spain and fucking and shoot them. You know, they're just going to like, okay, we'll find some guy who vaguely looks semi-Native American-ish, and we'll probably
go get some bronzer.
We'll get some bronze on him, some spray tan.
Put a fucking big craggly wig on that bitch, and there you go. Yep. Stick a feather up his ass and call him the bird.
I mean, when you think about it, look back at the 2 Indians that were in Django Kill.
Mm-hmm.
They did not look like Indians at all. No.
I mean, like, was it Lon Chaney Jr. played a Native American in a few things.
Yeah, like, fucking John Wayne played Genghis Khan in a movie. So,
that's awesome. So there you go.
It's fucking the movie.
Well, Yul Brynner did do The King and I. So there you go. I mean, life's fucked.
Yeah, and Yul Brynner.
It's called acting, goddammit.
And Yul Brynner played Sabata in the sequel. Adios Sabata. He played Sabata in the sequel. And then Lee Van Cleef came back in the third one, The Return of Sabata. But that's a bit of a switch, isn't it, from Van Cleef to Yul Brynner?
That's definitely a switch. Yeah, that's a big switch. Because that's the thing is Sabata or Van Cleef was never that. I mean, I'm assuming there were women that were like heartthrobbed about the guy, obviously, because I mean, fucking was it Sam Elliott? Women love Sam Elliott, and he's ugly as fuck.
I don't know. I'd say Sam Elliott's is a handsome-ish kind of guy.
Yeah, I know, but maybe it's just maybe I don't find him as attractive as some people do. Maybe that's it. I don't know. I just like
He just turns me on. He just turns me on.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't really want to take the cock. I mean, I might, if he's nice, but like he has to work for it. Let's just say that.
Well, I mean, yeah, Van Cleef is a decidedly kind of ugly dude. Like but he's got that charisma and that like
he's got charisma and he's got that style, but he's got a little bit of a ferret face, just a touch of one, but like not too bad.
He's got that innate manliness though. Like he's just like cool and tough, and it's funny. Like when he started early on acting, like when he was doing westerns in the 50s and stuff, he was told, we'll give you this role if you get a nose job and fix your fucking nose. And he's like, no, I'm not doing it. Yeah. So he had a sort of a small career in the 50s or so where he was just doing like second bad guy from the left and like classic westerns and shit. But then it just came to his advantage when he was brought on for the spaghetti westerns. Like all of a sudden he became an iconic kind of figure. And no one else looks like him. Like there's nobody else out there who looked like him. So
that's true. That's true. Yeah. One thing I can say about Sabata that I can't say about the other two is the music is amazing.
I like it. And it's a little bit different from your standard spaghetti western theme too.
It's this Italian church organ music that just kind of haunts the whole scene a lot of times. And it's very reminiscent of the same sound, and it's a different tone. Obviously, it's more of a higher pitched tone. It's a little bit lo-fi, but it's the same kind of quality that I find with the organ music from The Howling.
Oh yeah,
because it's the same Italian composer that did the music for The Howling, and he found an old church organ in an abandoned church, basically, and he made all this fucking music, and it sounds so reminiscent and haunting in a good way for me.
And then, of course, you got the main theme as well is kind of different than what you expect from spaghetti westerns. It's much more of this sort of up-tempo kind of Mexican kind of thing going. It's not.
Yeah. Plus, you get the banjo music.
Yeah.
I love it when he shoots his string off. You're out of tempo.
Yeah, you're out of tempo, yeah.
And you know what? Okay, let's say this before I forget. There's been a lot of times in this film when they use music and they use these cut shots to build and build and build and build and build some pretty nice scenes. Because I thought, Banjo and he were going to fight off right on the stairs. So I was just waiting for, the banjo to go off, if you know what I mean. And then he ended up turning it up right at the end and shooting his string off and making a joke about it. But I'm like, God, there's some pretty good tension scenes in this film too.
Yeah, I think that's the best part of the film is because you don't really know where Banjo's loyalties lie because you get the impression that they were both really roguish kind of ne'er-do-wells back in the early days when they knew each other, and they've run into each other again. And Banjo's like, "You've gone a bit soft. You're more of a nice guy than you used to be. What the fuck's going on?" And at the same time, he's sort of playing the angles like, who's going to end up with the money? Who should I fucking side with? Yada, yada, yada. And
they want their money back in the end. They'll shoot me no matter what. Now, I might actually be able to work with this guy and steal his money. You know what I mean? That kind of deal. One thing that you'll find continuously through all the spaghetti westerns is you're touching on these characters that are completely opportunistic bastards.
Yeah.
And will fuck anybody and anybody how to get the money in the end.
Well, Clint Eastwood's Man of No Name in the Sergio Leone films, although he does sort of develop a conscience later on, he's very much that. He's a fucking outlaw. Like he's not evil, but he's like I don't know. Would the Dungeons and Dragons alignment be like?
Chaotic evil or chaotic neutral?
No, chaotic neutral, I think, maybe, or chaotic good or something like that.
Chaotic good, yeah. See, well, now we just went total fucking dork, by the way.
Oh yeah.
I still have my dice somewhere, so I understand. Like, I always did chaotic neutral, so I understand. But no, that's definitely like, and I actually thought about The Man with No Name, that film, because the film's called Sabata. Yeah. But at the end, what is your name? Didn't I mention it? He laughs and walks away, and I'm like, or rides away. I'm like, perfect. I was like, God, it just made me think of that same thing as this no-namer came in. And like, where did they even get the name Sabata from? Like, he never mentioned his name, that kind of thing.
It doesn't sound like a white guy name anyway, It's like
Sabata.
So it was obviously like a title imbued on him. Yeah.
Right.
So I think we can move on now to Grand Duel.
We don't need to. I literally have nothing to say about this film.
So this one is late period spaghetti western. It does kind of herald back to like the earlier stuff in a way, because it doesn't really have all that much comedy or anything going in it. It goes back to more of a kind of Leone kind of thing. But what did you think at the very least overall, if you can give any sort of impression on it there?
Well, the impression, I mean, one thing I did notice about the film is it really focused in on making the upper echelon really bad. They control, and the control needs to be taken away from them by killing them. I mean, that was very, very blatant and very, very close into the film. And it stuck the whole way through that these guys are really bad and they're really rich, and you have to kill them or they'll never stop being bastards. That kind of thing. Overall, the film is interesting. I kind of like how they kind of played off of it. Like, you know, you're not trying to be a nice guy. You just want the money, you bastard. And he always wants the fucking money. Ryan, I guess they call him Ryan in that.
Yeah.
Film. Ryan always wants the money. And if that's the thing from every single Sabata film or Lee Van Cleef film, I should say, that I felt, he just wants the fucking money. I'm sure he would be fine with going a whole film without shooting anybody. Of course, he has to shoot the buttons off women. He has to shoot doors open because, you know, you can't use your hands. No. But I'm sure he would just be happy using his bullets for that and then getting money for it. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing about, like, I don't get this. Like, I get this. Yeah, he's done bad shit, but I never get this. He's a bad person vibe out of the guy ever. He is the good guy. He just happens to be, you know, one of the guy who fucked up a lot growing up.
Yeah, in this one, he's basically a sheriff who's pushed to the edge of, you know, taking the law into his own hands because
vigilante.
The three brothers there, the Saxons, who are they basically own the whole fucking area, all the towns and stuff in the area. They can't be brought to justice. Like he says somewhere in part of the film there that the Saxons have basically bought the judges and shit. So the Saxons are hell bent on getting the rights to the silver mine, and they're killing anyone who stands in their way to do it. But at the same time, they've got everyone in their fucking pockets, so no one's going to prosecute them or go after them for whatever they fucking do. So Van Cleef has basically taken upon himself to go after them. But early in the film, it's not explicitly spelled out that that's what he's doing. Because at first he seems like he's trying to play the angles, whether he wants to take the young guy into custody and cash in on his bounty, Philip Wormer. Because, yeah, early on it just seems like, okay, he's just kind of, it's not really spelled out that he's a sheriff so much. It's like maybe he's a sheriff, but he turned into a bounty hunter and he's going after this guy.
Well, I remember the one part, like, they were all there. He's like, I'm not trying to stand in the way of law, but you don't give a fuck about this. You just want the money. Like, and I'm like, yeah, he's trying to be the sheriff, but he just wants the money in the end.
Yeah,
yeah, that's typical.
Yeah, but in the end, it turns out he's actually just been sort of playing that angle and making people think that. And the reality, he is a sheriff who is trying to bring the law to the area, but the only way you can do it is by kind of going Death Wish and, you know, becoming a vigilante.
Well, and I mean, it feels like Four Horsemen, the beginning of the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. The only way they could do it is just to fucking just slaughter everybody in the town and start fresh. You gotta have that vigilante kind of thing.
Yeah, but I mean, at least in this case, it's for noble motives. It's not a bunch of religious fanatics just trying to wipe out all the people they don't like. Yeah, Lee Van Cleef finds himself stuck in a position where there's no way I can bring these guys to justice. I can't prosecute them or anything. But if I disgrace myself as a sheriff and then go incognito and run around, I can somehow manipulate the situation to the point where I can get these guys murdered and killed and get them the fuck out of the way. And at the same time, keep Philip Wormer alive because he's the guy who has basically the inheritance to the silver mine, you know.
Right, and he can train him a little bit, like a little grasshopper, like he does.
Yeah. It's got that same thing that, like we talked about, where Van Cleef is, you know, he's the mentor, and the younger guy is the kind of student slash rival, you know, because he doesn't quite know what Van Cleef's up to, so they're butting heads against each other. What did you think of the mystery of this one? Do you think it was revealed too soon? Because I think that's the biggest problem with this film, personally, is that you know right away, like, well, not quite right away, but pretty quickly into it, that Van Cleef is the guy who killed the three brothers' father early on, like, because that's kind of the central mystery of the whole thing.
No. Everything was pretty much played out pretty easily in the film. I mean, I knew the sheriff thing. I mean, it's just the film just didn't grab me, like, overall.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't a bad film, and everything was pretty much plain forward. It was a film that just did not, for some reason, grab me. It was just I didn't want to take a tweezer and pull every one of those weird things off that one guy's face. But, like, you know, I just didn't like. I mean, I didn't even like. I just want the guy to die, but I don't even care that it's painful. Like, I didn't really feel anything too much about this particular film like I did the other two.
Like, this is the way I felt about it, that it starts off kind of, you know, with like a big action set piece, kind of like it starts off kind of big, and then it just slows the fuck down. Like, for the whole middle part of the film, it's this mystery that isn't a mystery, because you know right away pretty much that Van Cleef is the guy who killed the three brothers' father.
I was simply waiting for the duel at the end.
Yeah, and the duel at the end isn't all that good either.
And the duel at the end sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I was like, are you serious? Like, boom, 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 that's it? Okay, that was totally unclimactic. Like, I thought it would be like a gun, like, you know, an actual gunfight, the whole deal. And it's like, no, it was just you know, it fucks the guy up because he shoots his hat off, and then just, you know, like, the end. I'm like, wow, that was okay. Yeah, least favorite film.
Yeah. Did you think it would have been better if all three of the brothers had like separate duels with him?
No, I thought it would be more of a flanking situation.
Okay, yeah.
Instead of right in front of your face, like, if they flanked them, it'd be great, because right at the end, one of the brothers could almost have the upper hand, and then the young kid could have shot the son of a bitch and saved Van Cleef's life. And then, you know, Van Cleef like, well, you know, you're alive. There's a silver mine. I'll get my sheriff badge, and then we'll walk off in the sunset.
That would have worked better too, I think. Yeah, I agree with that. I did like the bad guys. Like, I think the biggest disappointment for me in this film is that the final duel kind of cheats the bad guys of having like a really cool moment. Like,
and they were really, really bad guys. So yeah, they should have had something a little bit more epic as far as the death goes.
Yeah, because again, you have the evil gay guy is one of the brothers. You know, with the fucking he's got the pock, the chicken pox scars basically is what he's got there. Yeah,
he's got the pox.
Yeah. I really like that scene where he kills that old guy, and then the old guy
in there, middle of his face, and then he touches, like, oh my god, you're touching me with your blood. Oh my god.
Yeah, he touched me with your blood. God damn it! And
I'm surprised he didn't just like start shooting the shit out of him, like in the film. Like, I thought he'd have like a little like, oh my god, I have to do laundry rage, because nobody likes doing laundry. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But I think that was my favorite character in the film, though, because when he shoots his gun. After he shoots his gun, he takes his scarf and blows away the fucking gun smoke to get it out of his fucking face. Yeah, he was really great. Like, he played it up so fucking well. I really like that.
He actually a little bit reminded me, just very, 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 very little bit though, of the characters from the old. Oh God, I can't even remember what the fucking film is that they based. He based his character off the old Batman comics that we covered, the old gangster film.
Kiss of Death.
Kiss of Death, that's it. Thank you. The name escaped me as soon as I tried to say it. And
he's got that sort of Tommy Udo
Tommy Udo, yeah.
He's
got the Tommy Udo vibe a little bit in there, and I was picking up on that a little bit.
Yeah, he just doesn't have the sort of maniacal quality to him. But
no, he doesn't have that. He's just a real bad person though. Like, it's just like, wow, okay. I mean, both Sabata and this one have the same thing.
Yeah,
they have that upper echelon hoity-toity but absolutely complete bastard of a person.
Yeah,
as the bad guy that you really want to see killed, you know. And his sheriff brother is just an idiot.
Yeah, he's almost not really a evil guy. He's just really dumb, and he just goes along with whatever his brothers say and do, you know, for the most part. So you can kind of feel a little bit bad for him, but at the same time, it's like, nah, you're a moron as well. So I don't feel too bad
you
for
still deserve to die. So, it's okay. Yeah, so, overall, there you go.
I'll ask you, though, did you catch, like, in the final duel, the fact that the main brother, he had a gold-plated gun, the effeminate brother had a silver-plated gun, and the dumb sheriff brother had a bronze-plated gun. So it went like a descending order.
Yeah, sorry. And the third place winner is this dumb fuck.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. The man with the golden gun. Yeah, maybe that's why he had a golden gun, too. Yeah. The Bond thing.
But I do agree there's not much to say about Grand Duel. I mean, Van Cleef is good in it. The young guy isn't super great. Like,
he almost reminded me of the guy from the Django Kill. Was it Django Kill? Or was it the it was one of the other Django's that unfortunately I don't think I didn't watch it, but it was the one where he comes back to life after they
Django Kill.
Django Kill. Like he got with a scruffy beard. He reminded me of him a little bit. Yeah, and it's just like him. He didn't really live up to the character I was hoping he would.
I didn't think he was that great of an actor. I think that's the biggest problem. Is like he just kind of Van Cleef just kind of runs circles around him, and it was so noticeable that I was like, I don't really care about this guy's story at all. But Van Cleef was really good in it. Like I think he does a great job.
Mm-hmm. He does a great job in pretty much everything. Out of all three, the worst acting I saw in the whole series is in Sabata, when the one chorus girl pulls out like a thing of liquor and tries to drink it and then hiccups right after it. I'm like, that's the worst acting in the whole fucking three things. So I mean, like, as long as you're better than this bitch, you can do this.
Yeah. So I think actually we're in pretty much agreement here. Like I think I kind of edged Sabata slightly over Death Rides a Horse, but I mean it's kind of splitting hairs at this point. Yeah. But I think we're both in agreement. Grand Duel kind of falters. Like
it could have never happened.
Yeah, I mean, we'd be no different with or without it really, but I mean it's still got a pretty badass Lee Van Cleef performance in it at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
And some cool villains who deserved a better movie. I think that's kind of
right. Yeah, but like all these different films, you can see where they took some from other films in the future. Like some films in the future took from these films, like were influenced. You can definitely see some definite influence from these films. And it's interesting how you said like they were getting influenced by films of the time too.
Mm-hmm.
Of different genres, obviously, but films of the time. And then I watch these spaghetti westerns, and then I see stuff that I can notice in future films. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Paul, tell people where can they find you on the internet.
PaulRameli.com for some paintings and stuff. Oil paintings by P. Rameli on Facebook, and then just go on to PA Brew News, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Pornhub. Everything. RedTube, X-Hamster. Yeah, so there you go.
Right on. Okay, and we'll get to the ending segment of this, and we'll say our goodbyes. And thank you, Paul, for joining me.
Good.
Fun to talk to you about these films, and we'll be back again.
Yep. Adios, amigo.
Adios. So next week we're going to be doing. We had to drop one episode out of the list because we want to try to keep this confined to this month as much as possible. So we're going to be going straight into The Great Silence from Sergio Corbucci next week, which should be a lot of fun. We're getting to a really super serious fucking spaghetti western next week. It's not going to be Lee Van Cleef giving that grin and trick shooting. It's going to be something different.
Yeah, we should have covered Sabata and The Great Silence in one episode. That would have been a total mismatch if ever.
But Daniel, where can people find you on the interwebs?
I do some podcasting over at oispaceman.com. If you listen to this, you probably know all of that stuff. Science fiction television mostly. Doctor Who and Red Dwarf, that's kind of the two big ones, but little odds and ends, kind of splattered in there as well. Go check it out. And I write a weekly-ish column or so over at RootFilmPress.com. So go check that out as well.
And, of course, you can find all of our stuff at tmbdos.podbean.com. Find our YouTube, iTunes, and Facebook links. Facebook group, They Must Be Destroyed on Sight, is the best place to get in contact with us, keep up to date with what's going on with the podcast, and we definitely welcome all interactions from people. Leave us comments, questions. It doesn't even have to be necessarily related to the films that we're going to be doing that week. You just want to throw something at us, ask us a question. Give us movie suggestions that you want to see us cover. That's what we put the page up for, to interact with people listening.
Really, I mean, I think we'll cover just about anything. So it's really just like, what if you're listening to this, what do you want to listen to us talk about?
Yeah, because Cameron Sullivan just put like a couple ideas in the last week or so, like the Iron Eagle films. I think we might do that.
That sounds remarkable. Like I am literally, he said that and I went, perfect. That sounds like the exact thing that we should be covering on this show.
Yeah, because after October, which we've already got basically planned out, it's kind of free for all again. We're just gonna do whatever the fuck. I was already talking with James Murphy, and he was like, he was listening to the Django Kill episode, and he heard how Alex Cox did a remake called Straight to Hell. He's like, I want to do that film. I was like, okay, well, fucking November, we'll fucking do it. Why not?
We got some odds and ends coming up. I think maybe no series. Just do some odds and ends for the rest of the year after October.
It'll be fun
because we definitely still want to do the Left Behind episode at some point. And I was kind of thinking. I was looking at Lee Van Cleef and some of this, and I started going like, especially in Sabata, particularly in actually the Grand Duel, where he kind of looks a little bit mysterious and kind of samurai like. And I was like, we should do some samurai films. Like we should do. We should dig into that.
That is in the plans. Yes, that would be more than a month series, I think. We will be digging into samurai films at some point. And I mean, listeners out there, because that's not set in stone what films we're going to cover. If we were going to do samurai films, what ones would you want to see us do? Until next week when we do The Great Silence, thank you for joining me, Daniel.
Nice to be here. Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Thank you for listening to They Must Be Destroyed on Sight. For past episodes, links to the host's other stuff, and links to various podcasts and websites of similar interest, please visit us at tmbdos.podbean.com. There you can also find our iTunes, YouTube, and Facebook links. Please join our Facebook group, as this is the best way to get in contact with us and to keep up to date with what's coming up on the podcast. We also can be found as part of the Oi Spaceman family of podcasts at oispaceman.com, where you can find various sci-fi themed podcasts about Doctor Who, Red Dwarf, Firefly, and classic sci-fi novels. If you decide to subscribe to us through iTunes, please take a moment to leave us a star rating and a review. Thank you. Drive through.